Hey guys, how are we all doing? We are going to be covering off what's happening in the market at the moment. A bit of action, obviously, on BTC over the last few days, which is really exciting. We have chilled out towards the back end of the week and, taken a little bit of a break for the weekend at the moment. Pretty typical after a really big push like the one that we saw. And if you've been following me in Facebook and on Twitter, we did outline that we thought that 30 to 35.5K would probably be the top because we had that big lot of short liquidations and they sort of ran out at about 35. Plus, we had our 2020 value area low for the yearly long-term VWAP level up there as well. And that sort of capped out price. And we've been moving sideways since then. We've had a little bit of action happening on the altcoin front as well, while BTC has been flagging out and moving sideways. So we're going to cover that off. We're going to talk about FOMC this week as well, because that is happening on Wednesday and could shake up the markets a little bit. We'll take a little bit of a look at the stock market because it has been selling off pretty aggressively while BTC has been pushing. I do think that BTC is a little bit more closely correlated to gold at the moment, which is pretty interesting to see that shift take place, and a good sign for this point of the cycle, that's for sure. So we're going to take a look at that and the NASDAQ as well, and a whole heap of altcoins. So let's jump in quickly and have a look at the charts. So here we are on BTC right now with some really interesting price action. I mean, if you wanted to force it, you could sort of say that this was a bit of a falling wedge. We broke out of that. But considering, it broke out of the falling wedge on Saturday, we've just been sort of trending sideways since then. The more and more Bitcoin gets intertwined into the stock market, and, eventually I think, the BlackRock and other spot ETFs will probably take over as being some of the main areas that prices traded for BTC. They'll probably bring in huge trading volumes. That's probably going to control the market movements on the weekend a fair bit as well. So we might see less and less weekend action. So the thing that I wanted to highlight at the moment, it looks like it's going to attempt right now to have a breakout. So we'll see how this ends up playing out. At the moment, it's looking pretty nice for a strong close with only 5 minutes left to go. But basically, we want to see a close above this level here, and then that really opens up a potential rally to the top of the developing weekly value area high, pretty much at 34.8K. And obviously the highest close is pretty much right at that level as well, and potential for wicks up to 35K. Right, this is on Coinbase. Obviously, on some of the perpetual futures exchanges, this wick went way higher. Some of them went up to like 36, 37. That's because the liquidations, when they get triggered, they all happen at once and it sort of flies really quickly. So this is spot Coinbase. So those wicks haven't gone as high, but there is two really nice equal highs right here. And what happens when, you have equal highs like that? A lot of people, they put their stop losses for shorts right in this zone here. So eventually, we could see a push up to sweep or liquidate or stop out a whole heap of those shorts. And then we come back down again, right? And that is pretty typical when you see bull flag type action. It will fake out a few times the high and then come back in, fake out the low and then go again, right? So that's why I've got this level 3 here highlighted. This order block as well, obviously very important. You can see we came down and wicked into it multiple times through here and bounced out of that. So if we come back eventually, let's just say it ends up rallying up like this, we end up taking out the highs here, and that those two equal highs, it might come back down one more time, maybe hits this order block again, right? Takes out all the stops below here, and also takes out, the VWAP point of control, wicks into that, and then, we might end up pushing the next few days after that or something like that. Typical price action in ranges like this, to sweep the high, sweep the low, and then continue on in the direction that came into the range, pretty consistent, right? So those are the sort of trade setups I want to be looking for. I don't want to be diddling around in the middle too much, right? That's where you get chopped out. We want to be looking to trade at the extremes. So, for example, a fake out of these two levels here definitely can give us, short indication setups, right? Something like that is always nice. And you take the short here with stop loss above there. Okay, so those are the sort of things I'm really looking for at the moment. Now, this is a little bit of an ugly head and shoulders, but the shape is still there, even though this didn't really make that much of a low. It's hard to argue that that isn't a higher low through there. And, we're trying to break out at the moment above these highs, right? Nice equal highs. Equal highs did get swept already once. So, I was actually expecting this to roll over and sweep the VWAP and this pin bar here, because there's probably a lot of longs with their stop losses below there. I'll just get up the trade selector for long position. So a lot of people that enter the trade through here, they'll, let's say they got in late, their stop loss will be somewhere like this, right? Or maybe they got in right at the pin bar because it was, not a bad entry, or at the start of the morning star reversal, right? And they're putting their stop loss right below that wick or in this area somewhere here, right? And then also people also put their stop loss below the developing weekly VWAP, or also the anchored VWAP, which is the orange line. So I'll just turn off the long-term VWAP system. Right, and we've got our anchored VWAP from this point here because it was just before the start of the push, and we can see that this entry candle here was perfect. Unfortunately, I didn't get a trade in here because it was 5 a.m. in my time zone when it happened, so I was unfortunately asleep. But usually, if I was awake and saw that sort of price action, a nice little dump off, really strong reaction of buyers off the VWAP, I would take a trade like this, and either if I was feeling like, pretty confident that was going to run to the upside, you can run a bit of a tighter stop so you get a larger position on. Or, if I was a little bit hesitant, we've been taking out a lot of wicks, multiple times before a reversal, can always put it a little bit deeper and below this second level of support for the continuation order block, right? And then, just be aiming for range highs, look for those wicks to take out, maybe up here, order blocks before the rollover could also be. Then you get a nice 2-to-1, 2.6 to 1 type setup through there, right? And potentially this could always not come back one more time and takes out these wicks, and maybe it just continues on all the way to the next key level at 39k or something like that, right? So that's why it's always a good idea to be looking to get entries around the bottom of the bull flag type ranges and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the main thing that I'm watching on Bitcoin. So one thing I really want to highlight in this video, guys, is just the way that the market moves when we're trading quite bullish and altcoins are moving. So typically what will happen, Bitcoin pumps, we all saw that recently, right? And then the altcoins follow. So BTC pumped, and then Link and Solana and AAVE pumped, and if you've been following me anyway, we nailed those moves. Probably the 4 leading coins in the market, in my opinion. And now we're sort of rolling over into a whole heap of other coins, like the AI coins are starting to push now. I should say INJ, which is, I'm pretty sure it's a trading platform, that has been pumping really, really hard as well. But that thing's been strong all year, right? And now we're rolling over into like FET and RNDR and a few of those AI type plays. And they're going really strong at the moment. So usually what happens is when BTC finishes its main pump and starts to go sideways, the altcoins, once BTC tops out, altcoins will dump off when Bitcoin has its pullback into the bottom of the range and starts to set its range for the flag. But then after that, when BTC starts to actually move up and have a swing high to the top of its range, that's when it gives altcoins momentum to push really aggressively. So I see a lot of people posting, the rotational play diagrams and stuff like that on Twitter, and or talking about how Bitcoin then pumps and then rotates into alts and stuff like that. Don't be confused that when BTC rolls over, alts will also roll over and pull back. It's not BTC stops pushing and then that gives alts the time. It's like, okay, their time in the sun, BTC's finished its push, now it's having a pullback and alts just start flying. The alts will start flying and start running much more aggressively while BTC is in its sideways range. But that is happening. The altcoin push happens when the BTC goes from the range low to the range high. So that's what we're looking for here at the moment. So if BTC can break this bullish pattern of the inverse head and shoulders, which it's currently attempting to right now, we don't know if it's going to end up playing out or not, but if it does start to trade above this level, which is 34,250, if it starts to trade above that level, right, and start doing this sort of stuff, just grinding up, usually it doesn't pump that aggressively while it's inside the range. So you usually do this sort of price action and grind around, have pullbacks and chop around for a little bit. While it's doing that, that is when altcoins will get really hot and start to make their next move up. And some of them will break out of their flags, or, some of them will break out of their accumulation structures and stuff like that. So that is what I'm watching for at the moment across the board on BTC. And, this is just another chart that I have as well on the 4 hour. We are getting a couple little buy signals here on our cipher indicator, which is indicating, it's getting ready for a little bit of a momentum shift, potentially to the upside. And, if you just look at it like this, it just looks like a pretty standard bull flag, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if this did manage to grind its way to the top, have one more pullback, maybe fake out some wicks, maybe take out this one, because there'll be a lot of people with stop losses below in this area and then below in this area here. So I think it's important to think about the market in a way like, where are other people's stop losses, right? And if you can think about that and try to avoid putting your stop loss in the middle of them, it's probably going to help your trading, especially if you're the type of person that gets stopped out a lot, because how many people have a trade like this right now? Maybe you're looking for much higher, right? Something like that, for example. Don't worry about the target, but, we will worry about entry position and stop loss right now. Right. And you just put your stop loss in the middle of the liquidation zone, right? Most likely, there's a very high chance that this week here is going to get hunted at some point before this range resolves the upside or downside, right? And this wick down here, probably a little bit safer, but definitely has potential to be hunted, because there will be a heap of stops below that level, right? So, a lot of the time I do see setups like this, and a lot of the time this pops out the top here to take out these, right? And then comes back down, sweeps the range low, right? And then it finally pushes to the upside. So a lot of the time what I'm waiting for is, to get in and trade at the extreme. So if we do come down here and then we put in a nice pin bar type setup, get into the position after we've seen, people get taken out and swept, and there's been a little bit of a capitulation, bit of fear kicking into the market. This is going to roll over. Those people, have their stops taken out, and then we're looking for the next play, right? And in this case, I would be probably using Fibonacci levels, and we can also, I'd also be looking for the 0.618, and then I'd also be jumping across and just having a look at my yearly level as well, right? So we're going to get our long-term VWAP indicator up, chuck the yearly on. I'm going to go up to a bit higher time frame here. Right, so you can see this level through here and how strong that level was, rejecting off it multiple times through here. And you can see on the 4 hour, like this, on the 1 hour, this bull flag looks like it's fairly developed and we've spent a bit of time in it, but on the 4 hour, it still looks very premature. So this for sure can go sideways, for another swing high and then swing low before it takes off. And it also could be the start of a falling wedge as well, right? So need to be careful of that type of situation. I think if we do come down and test this 31,200 level, that is a definite buy. Any bullish price action off that 31,200 level, I'm going to be looking to get long on. So that's really the next type setup. And then for positions from there, for take profits, I'm going to be looking for the value area low, obviously, is the next level we need to be careful of and break through. But if this ends up playing out as a bull flag and then breaks the upside, I would expect this 2020 value area low to get taken. And then, the next key area is the point of control from 2020, which is about 45K, right? So that's going to be a tough one to get through as well. So that I'll be taking note and looking at that. All right, but I'll give you an example of when we had price action fairly similar, breaking out of a yearly level like that. Just I need to turn off some of these levels. Right, so it's a little bit cleaner like that. And we can see here the last time we broke out of a yearly value area that was quite significant was back in July of 2020. We had that breakout, and then you can see here that this is what I was talking about before. Like Bitcoin can easily put in some type of a flag pattern. Like this is almost exactly the same as what we're doing right now, and then have a bit of a run to the upside, pull back, and just grind up slowly. And then this was up in here in this range for 36 days, right, before it eventually rolled back over to retest the breakout of the yearly value area. And you can see how strong this level was once we confirmed back above it, multiple touches off that level. And then before we ended up breaking out of it, very, very clean price action every time we came up to this level. Right, it's not by mistake, and then we ended up taking off from there quite aggressively, right? And if you guys remember, that was when Michael Saylor started eventually first put some of his bids in and was buying through here, and he came out and said, that he'd bought Bitcoin with MicroStrategy's treasury and all this sort of stuff, and they're going to auto convert it to Bitcoin instead of holding fiat dollars and all this sort of stuff. And back down here, everybody was laughing at him that he'd wasted all this money because he bought in and instantly was down 12%. And then we continued to run pretty much up only to about 60,000 at that point. So he definitely got the last laugh. And funnily enough, at this point right now, we're sort of doing similar type price action, obviously a bit earlier in the cycle because we're pre-halving at the moment. We're breaking out of this previous year value area high. So it's a little bit interesting to see how that is playing out on the Michael Saylor front, that they have actually just flipped back into being profitable for all of their buys because they DCA, they buy in every month. All of their buys, they're similar around this level through here, somewhere at like the high 29K area. They finally flipped back into being profitable. So if we go back to all-time highs, he's going to be a very, very wealthy man, and MicroStrategy investors and employees are going to be pretty happy, I would imagine. But while this is happening and playing out, this swing to the upside, if we do end up getting it, that we're going to be looking for those altcoins to run. But potentially we could end up seeing something like this if we do get into this 2020 value area low and then drop it. I would expect, that really opens up that possibility for a throwback, a dump to this 31K area of the previous year value area high, right? And, if we can hold above that level, that would be a really good sign. And I would be looking for that to play out for similar sort of what happened to a couple of years ago and have a strong push to the upside. So that's what I'd be looking for, longing through here on any sort of bullish type setups, breakouts of a triangle, anything that resembles similar price action to this back here. Okay. So the other thing that we want to look at here is altcoins, right? ID, this was one that we had a whole heap of us jumped on this trade earlier on in the year, pushed really nicely. A few of my friends that sort of crypto pros in Dubai we're talking about this coin a lot, and it ended up getting a really nice pump. So sort of like the Dubai whales like to pump this coin, but it's starting to get moving a little bit here again. It hasn't really had much to it, just been bleeding out. Looks like probably some larger players have been dumping this. And it's just slowly been bleeding out, but potentially could wake up. So just keeping my eye on this, not ready to buy into a position just yet, but if it can get above this 26 or 0.26 level, it's going to start to look a bit more interesting, that's for sure. So let's have a look at the ones that people have been requesting. Ocean was one that I have been asked to do a bit of a review on. So definitely looks like this one wants to push back to range highs. I do like when you have a reclaim like this and a bit of a fake out, because this is basically like the spring, right? So it looks like we had accumulation back here, really strong pump, and this looks like a reaccumulation with multiple fake outs below the range low through here, and even like this last little bleed out. So this really needs to do something like this maybe put in a sign of strength, some sort of a bull flag through here, or just push straight out the top of the range and then move into its markup, right? So at the moment, a lot of coins like Link and Solana, they're doing sort of this stage at the moment where they're breaking out of their key range. They're sort of starting to flag out and push sideways at the moment. But Ocean, R&DR, FET, all looking really good at the moment, to be honest. Like, this is really nice cup and handle type action right here. It'll be interesting to see if it can break out of 2.75. Wouldn't be surprised if this end up just doing this, bull flag through here, and then pumps really aggressively. So be looking for that cup and handle type entry if you're not on this one at the moment. It definitely has more upside potential and has been really strong since the start of the year. Most coins that pushed in the January to May period, the Q1, Q2 rallies that we had this year just completely retraced and they're all the way back down at their all-time lows. Whereas this one didn't retrace all the way back down. Probably the only other one that I've been quite impressed with. Oh, well, FET was also another one that did similar, but did have a fairly strong pullback. That's also pushing right now. Hard to get in this one right now because it's already broken out, but potentially it ends up doing like a falling wedge or something like that, and that gives its next opportunity to get in for the next push higher. But that entry is a while off, I think. CAS is one. Where is it in my list? 1 second. Here it is. This is a really interesting one. One of the only altcoins that's just been pushing consistently all year. Actually missed this one. Really annoyed at myself, to be honest, because I thought it was going to come back. Like, most altcoins pulled all the way back to their previous lows, and it just never came back down. I thought it was going to end up doing something like this, range through here, like a lot of other coins, and I would just get it when it broke out of there. But against the odds, and it's not really on any of the large exchanges either. Like, I think MEXC is one of the ones that it has been on for a while. I think it just got listed on Bybit recently, but it just looks so strong. So something's going on here for sure. I'm always a bit wary about getting into coins that are already a couple of 100% up. So if it does do something like this and then reclaims this high, I'm probably going to be looking to get out of it. And that'll be a warning shot anyway. But if it breaks this uptrend support through here, and especially if it backtests it, like I've drawn here, that will be a signal to get out for sure. But a lot of the time you do see setups like this on altcoins, at the start or early in their cycles, and they just keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. I probably keep my eye on this one for when it gets listed on Binance, because that might be the time where it finally puts in its top. Just seems to be, when the coins finally make it onto a big exchange and they get a whole heap of liquidity, and that's when, it becomes a little bit harder to manipulate to the upside. Or when they release perpetual futures on it, because then they can start shorting it before the big VC firms that have heaps of spot get unlocked, and then they start dumping the spot on you after they've built big short positions, right? But the main ones that people want me to look at, obviously, INJ, just wow, what a coin, what an absolute insane pump this has been. Honestly, this is already on its way to its all-time high, not that far off at the moment. But yeah, great entry back through here on that inverse head and shoulders around $7. I hope the boys caught that in the Discord. So very nice work. Probably give a shout out to Crypto Students, one of the boys in the group who has been all over this one all year, and he's absolutely nailed the trade on that. So great work, brother. So yeah, the top coins I'm in at the moment, obviously Link, AAVE, and Solana were the main ones that I did load up positions on. And it just looks like, it wants to flag out. This is what I want to see. I definitely could see it pulling back, around to $10 at some point. If Bitcoin can't really stay bullish and continue pushing to the upside of its flag, eventually this can roll over and do something like this and then eventually find its way. But it just looks like the early stages of a bull flag at the moment. Huge volume came through on this breakout of almost a 2-year range, so expecting this to continue to push for some time. But when the next rally starts, I'm not sure. It is still really overbought on the daily time frame, though. In a bull market, things can stay overbought for quite some time, but this still looks pretty hot. So potentially, you know, chop sideways for a little bit longer before its next move to the upside. But, you know, my main target at the moment for Link would be $18. So I think, you know, this is, you know, even if it does pull back and retest the range high, you know, it's probably going to chop around and do something like this. But I think eventually it's going to find its way up to $18 in the short term. And then from there, I'm not exactly sure, but I think this is definitely one that I want to be involved in and be holding for a full cycle play. Was accumulating over, you know, the backside of this 530-day range. After we put this spring in, I started buying. So bought all through here, and that's paying off pretty nicely now. So we'll ride this one for a fair amount of time. If this does pull back to the range highs, like something like this, for example, or even back to $10 and retest the anchored VWAP, for example, you know, that's a buying opportunity for me. Maybe I'll load up a leverage position to look for the next leg up of the bull flag type play. Let's have a look. Other trades, Rose is obviously one that is still really close to its range low. A lot of potential here, you know, because of push just back to its previous range high, which, you know, I'm expecting to happen for this and a lot of other coins as well. It's a 63% move from where it is right now. So did manage to nail this trade on the reclaim. And this is a trade that I do like to take. So selling climax down here, and then, you know, sort of retested this through here. After it broke out of these two levels here, I did take a position. So breakout trade, not usually the greatest trading strategy, but when the market's this hot, I just put below my stop loss below the thrust candle like this, because that should not get violated. And then, you know, once, you know, the market started to pull back a little bit and BTC had finished its pump, I did TP on this here, but I will be looking for a potential re-entry on that, because I do think that this is probably going to push all the way back up to 0.085. And then from there, I'm not sure what it's going to do. You know, potentially it comes back up here and then, you know, it rolls all the way back down to the range lows. And it takes, you know, until sometime next year before it finally breaks out of this range. That is a realistic, I think, look at the market for a lot of altcoins right now. Don't just think that these things are going to continue to pump. You know, some of them will for sure, but a lot of them are going to stay range bound until post halving, until Bitcoin really starts pushing quite aggressively. And some of them won't break out of their ranges that they're in until Bitcoin is pushing in a new all-time high. Okay, guys, which might not happen until Q3 2024. You know, or even later. It could be Q4 2024 when Bitcoin breaks to a new all-time high. We just don't know. You know, maybe it happens faster because of the spot ETF and it absolutely sends it. But at the end of the day, we don't know exactly how quickly we're going to be pushing new all-time highs, and we don't know when these altcoins are going to break out of these ranges. But what we can do is, you know, buy the bottom of the range, sell or take profit on, you know, 25, 50, 75% at the top of the range. You know, look to get back in if there's a strong reaction off the mid-level, the 50% range, or, you know, get back in at the bottom of the range. And if it does break out of the range, right, can definitely look to add or build new positions on top of the range highs, right? And that is how you play accumulation ranges. It's not trying to predict where the market's going to go. All we do is just look and see what the market is doing, and then we take we take positions when when the market is moving in a way where we have an edge over the market, right? When we have a really strong estimate that the market is more likely to move to the upside than to the downside. And after breaking out of a really long range, like this one has been in this range for now 538 days. So eventually when it finally does break out of that, it's probably going to move to the upside for some time. And I think, you know, the first target is probably going to be up here, right? So from current price, that's quite a large swing. That's a 500% move, right? Definitely we'll have some troubles around this area here, and maybe like a little order block action through there, but still those moves are quite large. So just like spot positions and stuff like that, you know, leverage plays from, you know, a breakout of, you know, this smaller range to the top of the range and stuff like that, definitely all viable. But you know, like I've been covering off many times, if these coins, when they do flip the range high through here and they can hold that range high, that's when we want to be looking to enter into positions for the markup, right? And that is the late time to get into the entry. The early time is after the spring has been put in, right? Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, we covered off Link, AAVE, still looking really good. We finally broke out of this downtrend through here. Had a little bit of a cool off. I did just actually add a new position at the bottom of this pullback here, because just on the low time frames and BTC looking like it wanted to move up again. Low time frame, we sort of came back and retested this order block through here. Really nice pin bar back here. About the same time BTC did that nice pin bar as well, and 1 hour bullish divergence through here. So potentially a little bit early to enter into this one, but it might just keep flagging out, then push to the upside. But yeah, that was just a leverage position, because I already have my spot position from earlier, from back through from below the breakout through here. So just going to hold that, because I think that's more like a cycle play anyway, right? So I should just add that I think this is going to most likely push to the top of this channel fairly soon and get back up to around the 116 level. Right, and then from there, we don't know what's going to happen. It easily could get rejected from up here and come back down, retest this downtrend channel and then take off, or it comes all the way back down to the bottom of the channel, maybe puts in a spring. Like, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but what we do know is if it breaks out the top of this channel, the range, I should say, I want to be strong and in positions, because that is the setup for the markup, right? And I'll show you an example. I'll show you an example of what that looks like on ADA. Right, and I already have it highlighted for you, right? ADA was in this range for 666 days before it broke out of it. Really nice, strong breakout, similar to what we're seeing right now on Link, similar to what we're seeing on, Solana, for example, and a whole heap of other altcoins. They can have really nasty and vicious throwbacks, right? So just need to be careful of that. I'm not really interested, in this sort of stuff when it gets below the range highs, but when it's showing strong, strong trading above the range high is what I want to see, right? That strong price action above the range highs, not spending time below the range high, right? So we did dip down quickly below range high, and that looks gross to me. Like, I don't want to be involved in any of this sort of price action on any coin when it's reclaiming trading below the range low, but did hit this order block through here, right? And that managed to save it, and bulls managed to build a defense around that area and then push it back above the range high really quickly. And then after that, you can see through here, they did not lose the range high once again. That's the sort of price action that we want to see on these altcoins like Link, on Solana, on AAVE, on Rose eventually as well. Like all these altcoins, this is the type of price action that we want to see. And then that gives us the signal that we're moving into the markup, right? And then usually afterwards, you get some sort of bull flag type pattern. And this is the final opportunity to get in before the markup starts. And it absolutely just giga launches, right? And if you miss this pump, you're probably too late. So don't come and ask me if you can still buy ADA after, when it's in the middle of this pump, right? I know you guys will, because everybody always freaking does it to me. Something's up 65%. Oh, is it too late to get in? It's like, yes, mate. It just pumped freaking 80% in one 5-minute candle. It's not when you want to buy it. That's when you should be taking profit. But anyway, and then it starts its next full market cycle, right? So for a lot of altcoins, guys, right now, we are in this position here. So it's time to definitely pay attention to them. That is for sure. And, the time for accumulating within the range potentially is over for a lot of them, right? But that means that the good times are potentially on their way. Let's just have a look here at Doge, trying to move off the bottom of, its cycle lows as well. Not looking amazing, but, Twitter has come out recently with a whole heap of information about Elon Musk is saying that they want to take on the banks now with X, and they want to make X into basically what his vision originally was for PayPal and be a full financial institution. And so his sort of brief to X staff members was that people won't need a bank when they have X, because it's going to be X's platform, financial platform is going to be able to do everything. They do have a currency license. They're trying to get other financial licenses and things like that at the moment. But I wouldn't be surprised if he did find a way to get Doge in the thick of it, because he does love it. And let's be honest, he probably has huge bags and wants to shill them. So there is potential for Doge to move to the upside and end up finding its way to the top of the channel. But in the meantime, it's going to be tough for it to get out of this smaller channel through here. But I think the high at pretty much it's like 9.6 cents, right, is definitely a potential target for shorter term. And then that's pretty much it for the altcoins. I think Solana is probably the last one that we need to take a look at. Obviously, really nice action here with this inverse head and shoulders, right? Came back down, support and resistance flip of, previous breaker block through there. And then, we pushed quite aggressively to the upside, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if this did find a way to come back and test this 26 level eventually before it finally tries to take off and take out this 37K level. There is a bit of action at the moment on Solana because they do have a conference coming up. I need to double check the exact date of when that is, but I'll post it up in Facebook and stuff like that. But it is soon. I wouldn't be surprised if they manage to push it all the way to 37K, but that's where I'll be looking to take some profit and re-add on the next pullback. So could easily see something like this and then roll over and then take off, okay? AVAX is one that a lot of people asked me to look at as well. Doesn't look as good, obviously, as the others. After sweeping this level, yes, that is a nice reclaim through there. But, there's just not as much action here. Like, let's be honest, it doesn't look as strong, consistent lower highs, right? All through here, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. So, need to sort of break that trend. So a breakout of this trend through here, maybe big inverse head and shoulders, something like that, could give enough confidence to retails to start, getting back in on this. So this might be a later rotation play. Obviously, things like INJ, AAVE, Link, LDO isn't so. Rose is a little bit more of a later play as well. But Link, AAVE, Solana, INJ are definitely market leaders at the moment, along with BTC and things like Ethereum and stuff like that are lagging a fair bit. Magic was one of the coins that pumped extremely aggressively at the start of the year, and it is a bit of a new coin. So keep your eyes on this one as well. Sort of putting in a nice double bottom pattern here at the moment. Right. And it's actually just confirming that, because the confirmation of that is a breakout of the high, the swing high level, right? And nice support and resistance flip, and it's starting to push again. So I wouldn't be surprised if this made it in the short term up to 7.8 area. So it's not actually the worst trade, to be honest, just to take that double bottom trade, because double bottom would be this. Right, from the breakout point, it's not far off that order block up there. So definitely can continue to run and push to that previous high. And yeah, this thing can pump really aggressively. It was massively outperforming every other coin at the start of the year. So we'll see if this ends up, being a leader again in this cycle if we continue to push the upside. But yeah, INJ obviously up again, one of the biggest out of the list of my altcoins. So that is just an absolute beast right now. Probably heading a lot higher, but need to keep our eye on that for potential pullbacks, because at the moment I just couldn't buy into a position like that. Did get into a small position, just before the breakout, but because it already run, like, it wasn't a strong sized position. But yeah, obviously a lot of people asking me, have they missed INJ? This is probably going to end up making this market cycle here look like nothing on the chart eventually. And push way high, and eventually will probably look something like this. So, if you're a long-term holder, it's not the worst, but I just don't like getting into positions on things that have just pumped, 89% over the last week and a half. So, for me, it needs to have some sort of like a pullback on, medium time frames or something, and then go from there. So that's what I'll be looking for that. But one of the things you do need to take note of is if you're going to wait for a daily pullback, it might be too late as well. So you can always look to get in on a continuation play. So this actually wasn't a bad one through here, really nice bull flag type setup. But if you are getting into positions like this, sometimes it can be take the steps up, take the elevator down with these things, and then it ends up doing something like this and then continues on afterwards. So it's just really hard to get into positions on coins that have already moved quite aggressively, unfortunately. So, type stop losses on, a bull flag or something like this, a breakout of this level through here could have been okay for a position. And basically, if you're getting on a breakout there, stop loss below the thrust candle, and you just got to pray that you don't get stop hunted eventually like this, and then it takes off, right? Which does happen a lot, which was why, when the market is already pushing, it's really difficult to get into higher time frame, longer hold positions for sure. I'm going to quickly look at the stock market, right? I think this really does need a bounce here, to be honest. So just mapping this out from the previous all-time high, we are actually at the point of control at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to see if bulls can turn this thing around next week. Isn't really looking that great for them at the moment, especially the stock market. As in, when I say stock market, I mean SPX 500, but obviously this is a NASDAQ, but we did just put in a daily TD9 and we are sitting on the 200 daily moving average. So this eventually could, we hope, I shouldn't say eventually, Monday needs to push back up and put in a Morningstar reversal and reclaim the lows from this point back here. Right, so if we can reclaim that low and then get back into this falling wedge, it can be a similar type play than what we just had on gold, right? On the lower time frame, we go down to check out the 4-hour. Right, so gold sort of similar type setup, was in a really nice falling wedge, failed that, broke to the downside, reclaim, and then pumping quite aggressively, even into the close on Friday night, right? So could end up seeing some type of action similar to what we saw on gold there. Either that or, this is going to capitulate and, potentially come all the way back down to 12,800. But I sort of feel like, market is in a lot of fear right now, really strong GDP numbers again, had a pretty decent pullback so far. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a little bit of a rally next week at some point. People taking profit on shorts and hedges and stuff like that. The stock market is below the daily 200 moving average, which is a pretty bad sign because typically you don't spend much time below that when the market is bullish, right? So really important to see the market reclaim that level. And at the moment, we have also lost a pretty key level as well, which was 4,187. Okay. So reclaiming that is going to be quite crucial, in my opinion, for a push to upside, and it will be dragged up by the NASDAQ, because obviously those are those are the market leaders at the moment. We did have amazing earnings last week for Google. Amazon had absolutely ridiculous earnings, but Google had good earnings, although like a few tiny misses on which weren't even on their own estimate. So it was off a Wall Street estimate, and Google got absolutely hammered really aggressively. So I think, maybe that dragged the market down, and I think that's a mistake by Wall Street, to be honest, and they'll probably start to buy back Google positions next week. And obviously Google is one of the biggest leaders, right, in terms of market cap when it comes to the NASDAQ and SPX 500, such big weightings. And obviously large tech stocks dumping like that is never a good sign. So Microsoft had really good earnings as well. They were up. Amazon had amazing earnings and pumped 6% straight afterwards. So Tesla didn't have the greatest earnings, and that sort of helped to fuel this rollover and pullback. But the economy is really hot. Earnings across the board were pretty good, pretty good to great last week. So it just doesn't really make sense for the market to be dumping really aggressively right now, unless something is broken behind the scenes that we're not aware of right now. But most people, I put up a post on Twitter before, a lot of people are saying that we're already in a recession right now, but the GDP numbers were published just the other day for Q3 and they were 4.9, which is, pretty strong growth, to be honest. So yeah, something is going on. We're definitely not in a recession right now. The economy is really strong. And potentially we're not going to have a crash. We're not going to have a recession. We're not going to have a landing. Larry Fink was saying this the other day. There's not going to be a landing. There's not going to be a soft landing or a hard landing because the government is pumping way too much stimulus into the economy right now. And you just can't have a recession when you're at full employment and the government is pumping money into the market the way they are. So, eventually either inflation is going to stay above 3% or will slowly come down. It looks like it's been coming back down. We do have FOMC this week. So if the market is still struggling to get back above these key levels and is continuing to sell off into FOMC, I think we will see a more dovish signal from the Fed and from Jay Powell, and just to throw throw a bone to the market, so to speak, and see it get a bit of life back into it. But it doesn't really matter that right now for crypto, because Bitcoin obviously doesn't really care what the stock market's doing right now. BTC is running its own race at the moment, and it is realistically a lot more closely anchored to gold right now than it is to than it is to the stock market. So, keeping our eyes on gold, watching to see how strong that goes, I think isn't the worst idea at the moment, rather than, keeping our eye on the stock market. But FOMC probably will affect the crypto market. So paying attention to that for sure over the next few days. But definitely for BTC, the next target I think is, potentially around this 38K. If this does end up playing out as a nice bull flag and we push up, I'll be looking to take profit off longs from within this flag around that 38K level. If we do push up there, that's going to be really nice for our altcoin plays. And then on a pullback, I'm going to be looking for that 31,200 level for next really large swing high levels. Okay, so I shouldn't say levels, for entries, right? So that's what I'll be looking for. If we do have a rollover back to this 31,200 level, that will be my next area to trigger quite large positions. Bigger entries on spot and leverage trading, adding larger positions for the next swing up, because I think that is the killer level to get in at after a pullback, is this 31,200. Okay, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.